Hello and welcome to Scrolling with Ceazor. Today is March 4th, 2026. Okay, so I've got a lot of tweets for you today. Seems not too gloomy, not too bad, but there's still a little bit of fear and discontent in the markets today, and especially in the news. But as you can see, we've got some green candles, so maybe that's why people aren't so doom speaky. But anyhow, we have got a nice big green candle on ETH, but it's not a significant move really. It's just a correction of the crab down from the last couple of days and so forth. Gold itself has not recovered its huge candle yesterday, but it did have a little bit of partial recovery. I don't know exactly how much, maybe something like 2%, about 2% recovery. So that's not too bad. Things are looking okay there and there. With the war in Iran and all the other stuff going on, I'm not sure how sustainable these prices are, whether or not they're going to continue up and so forth. But let's move on. Today I'm going to start a new thing. There's this protocol or tool out there. It's a free tool called Pharos. I'm going to do a full deep dive video and go through each of the tabs and talk about each thing inside here. There's a lot of information here, a lot of valuable information and stuff like that. But on this podcast, I'm just going to go through what they call the digest. So it's a daily little look at stablecoin news and so forth. And there's some data in here that I don't know, I don't understand, because I just haven't learned about this kind of stuff. So I'm going to kind of skip some of this stuff, but you can kind of read this, and it does get tweeted out as well. But the tweet kind of condenses it a little bit. So I'm going to just kind of use this every day as a part of, like, let's talk stablecoins a little bit. Stablecoins are obviously a prominent or very significant part of crypto nowadays. So it's good to keep your eyes around them and kind of see what stablecoins are out there and what different kind of things are happening. Okay, so the biggest news today would be a couple things. First of all, we have KAG, KAG, which is a silver coin, silver stablecoin. It depegged 3 times yesterday. Not terribly, like just 500, 300 and 300 bips, right? So, that's, if you are holding KEG, you're getting some like good volume on it and so forth. I don't hold KEG, so I'm not sure if, I'm not trading this one. The only one I'm holding are the 2 dominant gold stablecoins, PAX and USD, the Tether one, right? Okay, so that's interesting. What else do we have here? So USDC has added 1.4 billion this week. So just another $1 billion into the market, and that's powder, dry powder that could be used to buy things. However, it's probably majority of it's probably being put to lending positions. So that's nice because it grows the opportunities. It grows the ecosystem. It allows for new teams to build yield products and to suck up some of that USDC. USDT actually went down 38 million yesterday, but it's still the dominant one. So, and it's an insignificant amount in regards to their total market cap. This is interesting. So USDT on Ethereum froze $300,000. I didn't know that they were doing it so frequently. So 4 addresses were frozen for this amount. So that's like more than like 60 or 70,000 each, but not exactly, right? Maybe one got 200 and the others are smaller, right? There were 32 blacklist events in the last 24 hours. Most of them were quite small, as you can see. The vast majority of them was USDT on mainnet freezing. So, most of them are small. Let me just read what it says. The amounts are small. The volume is not. 32 actions in a single day is a pace that suggests someone's compliance queue had a busy morning, even as the PSI sits at its most placid reading. Okay, so anyway, I find that to be interesting. I'm going to be reading this, kind of looking at this as one of the newses that I take every day. And then, like I said, I'm going to do a quick video on this and kind of highlight some key things inside here to kind of, and I'll probably do a call with the creator of this, who is Token Bryce. And this is a fantastic tool. If you're not using it, if you've never heard of it, I would highly suggest you check it out. Okay, let's moving on. So let's get into the tweets today. So here we have Duca. Duca has a real question. He says, who is actually giving their agents money to buy things? Is this a real thing that is happening? Everyone is talking about it, but I don't know a single person who is doing this. Am I just a boomer? I'm going to have to say, yeah, you're just a boomer, because there's definitely people who are giving their credit card powers to agents to buy things. I can think of at least 3 people that I know doing it, at least. But, you know, and I'm thinking maybe I should be doing it too, but I'm not quite doing it. I'm kind of stingy in that sense. But yeah, it is really happening. You know, people have been giving their keys, their wallets to AI agents since the Telegram trading bot days, right? So, you know, it's definitely happening. Moving on, here I have Lampolatilitis. He's just kind of shilling FX protocol. I want to continue to keep my eye on this protocol because I do like their ethos and being part of the trustless force. But as you can see, they have quite a few things in the pipeline. You can read through the whole entire list here if that's something you want to. But basically, you know, they're prime for some growth if the market starts to bull run and things start to heat up a little bit. So you can check out his post on Protocol FX. Here, this is pretty interesting. So this is an OG protocol called Angle. They had some stable coins in the past, and they're winding down. I didn't read through this whole thing as why. Like, obviously, the reason they're winding down is because the team is not getting paid enough. That would always be the case, right? Unless there's some sort of like exploit or what have you. But generally, the revenue is just not matching the demand, the cost of running the stablecoins. But I do find it to be a little bit sad that an OG protocol of stablecoins is getting wound down. It's kind of sad, but you know, this is a pretty tough market right now for stablecoins. There's a lot of competition, and you know, I find that this is significant news to keep in mind. But at least you know, they have a proper winding down procedure. They're not just like shutting the doors and walking away, which is kudos to them and so forth. But as you can see, they have a euro stablecoin as well as a US dollar one, and both of them are going to be unwound. So that sucks. Okay, so here we have Eli DeFi, Eli 5 DeFi. He's done a long thread here. You can read through it, of course. It talks about basically USDE and significantly USDE. He does say that, like, who's winning this? Athena is winning. So the gap between, so basically the idea is that there's so many stablecoins out there. USDT and USDC is obviously the key factors. They have the most capital. They are the on-ramp of US dollars into the system from all over the world. But they don't share the yield, right? So there's no interest-bearing USDC, native USDC. There are interest ways to put your USDC to work, but you know, Circle doesn't give any yield to anyone who holds it. So he's kind of contrasting that with Athena here. There are a lot of protocols, a lot of opportunities out there for stablecoins that are interest bearing. I wouldn't. He says who's winning this? Athena, he says, is winning. Now he gives the reasons why. You can go through his reasons, right? But I don't really believe that. Like, I don't really think Athena's winning. I do hold some Athena, like SUSD, because I do think it's a valid project and so forth. But I do think about it a lot. I do consider whether or not I'm in the right, that capital is in the safest place, because they are, you know, using centralized exchanges, right? So, but centralized exchanges still have the vast majority of users and volume. So I think it's safe to say that Athena is playing the game properly right now. If that yield does dry up, if the centralized exchanges do lose their market dominance. I'm not sure how Athena will perform, if they will be able to perform at all. Basically, they're doing the basis trade, right? So they're hedged. They're farming the short funding rate on Binance and stuff, and hedging it on chain with Aave and other things. So you can check out this long post. It's a pretty long one, but if you don't know how Athena works, you can kind of dig deeper, find out how this works. I should probably check, but I forgot to check. But I don't think I did a video on Athena. So yeah, you'll have to read the docs. Moving on, here we have Gino. He's tweeted out something here, and I find this to be really bad. Now I kind of commented down here on Scoopy with some humor, but I think it's pretty rough. Like here it says, "Hey, what the fuck are you guys thinking? Polymarket, nuclear weapon detonation by," and then so the Polymarket has made a prediction marker when people are going to drop a nuke, and it's like 22% before this year. Basically 22% believe that this year there will be a nuke dropped, and that's pretty scary. Now, like, this is basically incentivizing someone to drop a nuke. Now, of course, there's not tons of money in here, but there's significant, like $800,000 worth of volume. I don't know how much is inside this LP, and maybe it's changed since then, but like, I haven't seen anything this bad since the Pump Fund live stream, like permissionless live stream stuff went live, where people were like caging themselves and doing just terrible stuff to try to pump their like Pump Fund fucking coin. That was like just as bad as this, if not as bad. Like this might even be worse than that. So Scoopy does come in here and says, like, last thing I want is for some psycho cultist with a launch codes to find some financial upside of wiping out humanity. So yeah, like this is like, the thing is, like, Polymarket has to like sit down and they have to discuss with their team if they think this is a good question, and then they have to put it on. It's not permissionless. It's not like some degen like on Pump Fund. Like Pump Fund had some pretty bad videos, but Pump Fund did not sit down as a team, discuss, let's let this guy make like like immoral videos to pump a coin. They just put the tech and let anybody use it, and people just used it that way. This is actually like a group of people sat down from Polymarket and decided to make this question about nuclear weapons. To me, that just sounds like greed. Like they just want the farming, they just want the fees, and so there's like give people what they want, right? But I think it's just too much. I agree with Gino here. Like his reaction is pretty harsh, and I agree with him. Okay, let's moving on. Okay, so DC Investor says this today. Says, what if when shit really hits the fan? And I don't mean for central banks and rich people hedging. I mean for people when physical security may be on the line. It's not gold which people run to, but rather, is it crypto? So his idea here is like, what happens if, like, you know, Goblin Town happens in real life? Like, people are breaking into each other, there's riots everywhere, there's killing, there's, you know, you care about your crossbow more than you care about like your PS3 or PS5 or whatever they're at right now. So like, in this kind of world, is gold really the thing people are gonna kind of go to, or will it be crypto? And I thought about it a little bit, and I think it depends on how bad things get. Like if we're talking Mad Max, then crypto's kind of useless because it needs computers, it needs the internet, it needs, you know, a distributed ledger, right? But if it's just like isolated like instances of terribleness, which, you know, like right now what's happening in the Middle East is pretty bad, are people going to be like, hey, I want to buy some gold to like hedge my risk or to hold my value? I don't think so, because it's so much easier to just buy crypto. And as long as the entire world is not destroyed and it's only isolated to certain areas. But if it does go to Mad Max, like level terribleness, then we're looking at gold and oil, like food, like this kind of stuff, right? So yeah, I think it's pretty scary. Like that's pretty bleak and scary, but you know, like this is not this is not just a sunny day meditation. You know, like this is coming out of like the feed, like basically the news that he's getting on a regular basis. He then had this question pop into his mind. Moving on. So here we have Juan Samlatier. So he's talking about this new thing. Agora is a stable coin. Okay, it's called AUSD. It's quite centralized, but it has a lot of high yield out there. So if you do some due diligences on it before you think about using it. I don't hold any of this AUSD yet. I've been kind of thinking about it a little bit because it is significant in size, and it's not a Ponzi, right? So, but there is some things here. So he's like, there's these new Morpho vaults dropped, I think yesterday or the day before, and basically they have AUSD and the yield is pretty high on them. Okay, so this is his understanding of it. So I'm going to read what he says, and then you can dig deeper to see if he's correct. And of course you can go to this Agora thread and read through it more. So he's like, so let me see if I've got this right. He says, Agora is incentivizing Box Morpho V2 vaults in which people buy AUSD to deposit into it. So I guess you deposit USDC into this vault and it buys AUSD, okay? And then basically what that's going to do to it is going to push the peg upwards, right? Make AUSD worth more money, depending on size, of course, like that, right? That AUSD then gets dumped for SUSD via the Agora contract and then the peg stability mechanism. So they take, you pumped the AUSD above peg, and then they're going to sell it for you and buy US Sky ecosystem USDS, right? Probably like multiple ways, probably through the DEXs as well as through the peg stability mechanism, and then finally gets levered with SUSD against USDC, and then they take that SUSD, they borrow some USDT, and then they like loop it, right? They loop it through, so then they start, then they get more staked Sky SUSDS, and they deposit that and they loop it up, right? So like his idea is that like this vault is not even like using AUSD as collateral. It's just like asking people to like pump it a little bit, and then they can dump it and do this other loop, right? So I find that to be kind of interesting. And then this guy does reply, I think the idea is to get people to mint AUSD to increase the market cap. Dumping it doesn't harm Agora since it's always worth $1. Yeah, so I think this is pretty interesting. I'm not sure, like, is it a bad thing? I don't think so, but like, it's kind of like not really using AUSD it's not really putting AUSD to work. It's just forcing people to take price impact, which is kind of strange, right, to me. I think if he's right, I think this is kind of a little bit tricky and scary. Is it profitable? Probably, otherwise they wouldn't have built it, right? But is it moral? Is it the right thing to be doing? Who's paying? Who's the one losing money in this? It kind of sounds like the depositors, but it depends on size, of course, right? Anyways, so you can dig a little bit deeper into this. But it goes to show like how you have to like dig deeper. Like, because if you just look at this image and you're like, oh, I'm going to deposit in here. I don't know what this is. I should probably, I can't look at, but if you like look at the front ends and stuff, you're not going to see like what's happening, and you won't know. So then you kind of like, you have to dig deeper to understand what things are, what's happening under the hood all the time, which is kind of, what I've always told people, right? Read the docs, do some due diligence. Okay, so here we have Millie from Trujillo, or Llama on the Brink. And he's got something here, okay, that I'm going to just read and then we can kind of talk about it, okay? So the paradoxical irony here is that institutions and small teams of professionals care a lot more about decentralization and counterparty guarantees than degens ever did. For proof of this, look no further than the dozens of Telegram sniper trading bots that people copy-pasted their private keys into, which took off among the degens in Solana. So he's just showing how bad degens can get, right? And he's a contrast that to the institutions deploying countless products on Ethereum mainnet, not the L2s, over the past year. Decentralization always matters. So yeah, the big capital, the actual institutions who do proper risk assessment, they are using Ethereum. They're not using, as Base is still being used, Arbitrum, Optimism, there's still capital there. They're still writing blobs. But these huge institutions like BlackRock, they're not deploying their stablecoin to Base or anything like that. They're doing it on mainnet unless they're getting paid by these entities, these foundations to do that. And then this guy says, lol, yeah, what a dumb tweet. Decentralization matters. So this guy's agreeing with him about the original. I didn't read the original because I just read Millie's and I just agree with him. He's right. Okay, moving on. So here we have Sonic Labs. They have a new thing coming out called the Ambassador Grant Program. You can apply to be an ambassador, get a grant, and help to rebuild this ecosystem with positivity. Okay, I'm a S holder, and I've always loved the Sonic ecosystem. There's been a lot of it's kind of in shambles for lack of a better word. Lots of FUD, lots of hate, lots of blocking. But I did apply for this because I think of it this way. Number one, I have a bag, so of course I want it to recover. And two, Sonic, aka Phantom, has always was the ecosystem that made me feel welcome and at home. So, when Sonic launched, I felt like I was kind of going home, back to my hometown, so to speak. So I'm keen to try to help it, and it's not a crappy blockchain. There is fantastic ideas here. It's just, they've had some mismanagement, so to speak. Now, I did apply for this Sonic grant. I did put my name into the list. So we'll see. I do think, they have to be very, very selective on this. The first way they did it was we got spammed. We got just hammered with AI slop and just low effort stuff, low loyalty. And, even myself, I'm not as active as talking about Sonic as when they had their last campaign, but I haven't been fudding them either, angry because the bag is down, right? So, and I lost tons of money because of stupid exploits and stuff like that, but I don't really blame them completely. So, there's a little bit of blame there, but not, this is crypto, and they never know. You can't know that someone's gonna exploit, or you're gonna have some team member rug a protocol or what have you. So I don't know. So I thought I'd share this. If you want, you can join their ambassador program. You can check it out. I think it's worth considering. Of course, there's going to be a lot of people who are yeah, screw that shit, fuck these guys, right? So yeah, that's there. So news. Moving on, here we have Steakhouse Finance has these turbo vaults. I did read through all of this. It's not fresh in my memory again. I'm going to have to read it again. And, this is the type of thing that, I really should just do a snack sandwich video on. But these days I'm feeling pretty gloomy and unmotivated to just do my normal public good of, explaining Steakhouse Finance's vaults to people, right? for nothing. I'm feeling a little bit, I don't want to say greedy. That's not the right word, but unappreciated, I guess. So anyways, so you can check through these. They sound a little bit risky. I'm not going to use them myself, these turbo volts, but basically they're just like leveraging up in different ways. They are interesting though. You can read through these three here. They have these turbo volts, they have the high leverage and the carry, and basically they have two different kinds of like strategies where they're basically levering up your assets. I haven't really thought deeply on it and whether or not there is like there's definitely like, it does clearly say here that they've used some special words here. There's this: if the borrow cost exceeds yield, the carry turns negative. So these are not lossless volts. So if you do deposit in them, you have to monitor the situation and you have to watch if this thing goes negative. You got to get out, and you have to be agile. You got to get out before other people, because you'll end up holding the bag, right? So be careful about that. Don't just deposit it because, oh, Steakhouse big, has nice logo, I'm going to deposit. So make sure you understand what's going on and understand your risk and stuff like that. So they're being like clever with their words. Like here, a depeg in the underlying asset, rising borrow rates or yield fluctuations can erode or invert the position. So again, these can go into negative APY. So you're losing money. So be careful, okay, guys? But I do think it's worth sharing, and I do think you should, we should be aware of what's going on out there. Okay. And I do use Steakhouse for some things. Like I do use some of their curated volts. So I'm not following them though. So maybe I should follow them. Moving on. Okay, so Landex. This is a protocol that I've been using for quite a long time. And actually recently I migrated my position from Arbitrum back down to mainnet. I have a video on this, so please, check it out. This is probably one of the coolest projects in DeFi that have existed for quite some time. Basically what Landex does is you give it USDC. They lend that USDC to actual real farmers in the world, doing corn, rice, wheat, different farmers, right, in the real world. They lend that USDC to them, and then when the farmers reap the harvest and sell the goods, they repay their debt with interest, and you get those interest. So it's super cool product. So I thought I would share it, and there's some news here. So basically, their Landex governance token, trading is being discontinued on MEX. I don't even know how to say this. MEXC, the centralized exchange. Now you can read. I don't really care about that because I don't trade on centralized exchanges, and I don't actually have any of these Landex tokens. I just use the product because I want to support the farmers and support an ecosystem, like a project that actually has real world implications. It's not just like holding like stocks, tokenized stocks. This is actual. Your money is actually going to real people to do real world things, which is very interesting. Now, I don't have hundreds of $1,000s in this protocol, but I do think it's worth sharing again. So yeah, shout out to Landex. I'm happy to see that they're still kicking it, and my corn is still growing. So check it out, okay? So here we have Corn from Yearn. He's built something here. I haven't looked at it deeply, but just looking at this image, he's like, what do you think? Subscribe to protocol alerts. And, you can go through all of these different things and, different protocols and compound, bad debt, Moonwell, Silo, all these different protocols, and then you can activate like a subscription type thing where maybe I don't know, like I gotta look at this, right? I haven't looked, and then it's gonna then ping you on Telegram when stuff happens. I think that's pretty cool. I don't know if it's free. I assume it's free. Yearn's pretty good about making it free, but I'll double check. But I thought I'd share it before I dig deeper, and you guys can kind of check it out as well. It's pretty cool. I don't know, like I said, I don't know if it's free or what have you, and I don't know all of the different alerts that it can do, but it's always good to have nice alerts, especially like something like if you're if you're doing this steakhouse thing and this thing goes negative, you want to be alerted, right? If your any kind of borrow rate exceeds your lending rate for a loop or something like that, you want to be alerted. And there's probably other things too. So yeah, you can check it out and find out what kind of alerts you can get from this thing. I don't see a link. There is so I'll have to wait for Corn to give out a link for this. Here we have Bread from MegaETH. You can read through the whole thing, but basically he's saying like, incentives are coming. They have a mainnet campaign. They have a 2.5% of MegaETH tokens allocated for incentivizing liquidity and usage on the chain. However, he clearly states here that what they're waiting for is more projects to deploy to MegaETH, and then if you deploy to MegaETH, you're likely to get some juice, and then hopefully liquidity will come. But they're not gonna like. It's historically what has happened is like all chains where they make the campaign, they send the campaign live. A few protocols that are there already get the early juice, and then more protocols try to come in late and get some of that juice as well. But what he's saying is let's let everybody deploy, and then we'll turn the juice on. And I think that's pretty interesting. It's definitely a different way to try it. It's not the way it's been happening in the past, as far as I know. But so get ready for that. Moving on. Here we have Simon Didick. He's basically retweeting Eric Trump. Eric Trump is basically talking about Donald Trump, basically saying that the banks don't like the Genius Act. And, it's just kind of, they're all just kind of saying the same thing, Donald Trump, Simon's basically saying Donald Trump, he's been bad in many ways, but for the crypto bros, he's kind of living up to his promise. He keeps pushing the Genius Act, now there are people say that the Genius Act is not the best thing for crypto, or it's not actually a great thing for crypto, or what have you. So that's something you have to look into itself. But he is continually pushing for it, and you can read through all of the text here. But basically, he's like, the banks have been scalping the people for so long, and crypto kind of allows everybody to be on a level playing field for the most part. Like obviously the high worth net individuals and entities, they get perks that you as a depositor with $1,000 don't get, right? They're depositing 10 million. They're going to get some extra little juice on the side, right? Because they're not agile as well. That happens a lot. But here, they're talking about, the level playing ground. Like at least everybody can participate, and you don't need to be certain individuals. There's no pre-market trading and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, you can check this out. Check out Simon here and Eric and Donald's tweets. Okay, here we have Scoopy. He's saying something here. He's saying, let me read this out loud. The tourists are gone. The trenches are bankrupt. The liquidity has dried up. Everyone is naked. And the fake libertarians and statists, warmongers, have revealed themselves. With World War looming in the moment we build, not to extract, but to defend the light of the world. So yeah, like it's a little fuzzy and poetic, but I do think he's right. Like the grifters are pretty much gone because they can't grift anybody because there's no one to grift. The only people sticking around are people who are risk adverse or do their due diligence and not just allow themselves to be exploited and extracted, right? So anyway, so you can think about that and so forth. Okay, so here, what's this? So yeah, we have Shaman from ETH Strategy. He's like, do you want money that cannot be frozen? Buy ETH. So it's a very simple thing. ETH is a fantastic asset in my opinion, and the price has never reflected its beauty. There's been times where ETH was pumping like crazy, and that was awesome. But I do think that like the ability, like holding ETH is probably the safest thing you can do in crypto. Now, you can then deposit it into things to get yield, right? And that's where you start adding risk. But there are some really, really low risk opportunities for ETH. So you can check those out. I'm not going to list them all here, but like, just like LSTs, liquid staking tokens, Lido, Rocket Pool, these kinds of things, right? There's a ton of those. And then like lending it on Morpho or depositing it into Yearn. You're starting to add risk as I'm going through this list. And then you can even use the ETH strategy to buy options at super cheap on ETH strategy. So you can check it out, decide whether or not this thing is something you are interested in, and so forth. So the last one I have here is this is kind of crazy. Like this is so if you watch through this video, I watched through this because it kind of matters to me because I'm in Canada. But basically, the federal government signed some treaty, some agreement with the native Canadian population or tribe in BC, and the BC government has no idea what's on that document. So the provincial government, it's basically, they're speculating in here whether or not, so we've got one side and the other side, they're fighting. And the one side saying, the BC, you guys know what's on there. And the guy's like, we don't know what's on there. And he's like, yes, you do, you're lying. And he's like, no, we don't know what's on there. But the whole idea that like the BC province, like government, was not included in the discussion between the tribes and Canada to give these tribes something. They don't know, but everyone's speculating that basically they've just given the city of Vancouver to these Indians, which is insane. That includes like everyone who lives there basically lost their homes. And this has happened in the past already. Like there's a part of Vancouver that was given to the Indians, and now all of the people who own houses on there can't sell their houses because no one wants to buy a house owned on land owned by the Indians. And the Indians aren't going to buy it because they already own it now, right? So it's like, it's just silliness, right? Like, I don't know. I find it to be scary and strange and weird and like what's going on. And I feel like it's just the liberals just giving the Indians these things so that the Indians will support the liberals, instead of, because they don't want the conservatives to get into office, right? And there's so many other things in the news about this stuff, but I don't want to dwell on politics too much on this podcast, but I thought I would show this. And it kind of goes to the idea of like why I love crypto and why I hate politics, is because these kind of deals should be completely public information. They should be like the deal should be, discussed and then brought to the people for voting. And then the people can vote on whether or not they think this deal is a good idea. And then a lot of people won't vote, so they can delegate their votes, right, to the MPs. But it should definitely be public information. The entire deal shouldn't be like, signed in incognito. And then we find out what happens when the shit hits the fan. You know what I mean? It's total whack. It's craziness. And it's like, it's just the way governments run right now. There's so many secrets from the people. It's like the people can't handle it. They're just sheep. And, as long as we give them their grass, they'll be happy. As long as they've got a little bit of grass to eat, they'll be happy. And it blows my mind. And it just makes me kind of a little bit angry and sad and just depressed inside. But anyways, I guess that's it. I'm sorry to leave it again on the gloom, but that's it for today. I hope this has been interesting and useful. Thank you. Goodbye.